ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome back to our Saturday morning session. First of all, let me express my profound appreciation to all of you for your very positive feedback in the last session and very kind words which you expressed. And I would also like to say that the slides prepared by Tarun, PPP, I found it very useful. I saw it later on and it was very useful. Now I have a few questions which I noted down, and one question was sent by Rajesh. So first I will go on to those questions and then we will start our new talk. So first I'll take the question posed by Rajesh. That is, what is enlightenment? Can we reach enlightenment? Now, I would like to use the word self-realization rather than enlightenment. Because enlightenment in the Western sense could be misunderstood in certain ways. Basically, in our philosophy, we call it Atma Bodh as the name of our groupage, or self-realization, that we should understand ourselves. Now, of course, it is possible and it has been achieved by millions of people over time. There are a lot of examples who could achieve self-realization over a period of time. Now, what is self-realization? What do we call self-realization? Now, it's a very simple thing. It looks very simple when we talk about it, that the body-mind complex is normally used to limit the universal consciousness to body consciousness. So the body consciousness becomes part of the body-mind complex and it remains limited to the body-mind itself. It doesn't go beyond that. Now, if we can differentiate the body-mind complex and the consciousness which is working inside us, it means we know what is the truth. It means we have realized ourselves. We have to, it is also called what we call Prakriti and Purush. Now, Prakriti is the body and mind. All the three gunas of Prakriti, Sat, Raj and Tam, they constitute the body and the mind. While the consciousness, the Chaitanya or the Purush inside, that is completely unaffected by all that process. That is absolutely free from the entire body-mind complex. Now that freedom which exists with the consciousness should be realized by us, and then we are self-realized. And the process we do of meditation is precisely that. When we are guiding our mind from one place to another, it means there is a force which can guide the mind. The mind should not be guiding us. Normally what happens that the body and mind start guiding our life. We become prisoner of that body-mind complex. We forget the consciousness. And when we are operating, we are not working consciously. We are just driven by the body-mind complex. If you think deeply, you will realize it. When you are working, you think, how did you work? What made you work? You will immediately feel that it was the mind which was guiding you here and there, without your own realizing what you are doing. Once we start realizing what I am doing, and I should guide the mind where I want to go, it means you are self-realized, you know what you are. So you are completely beyond what we call anything which is happening in the nature. Nature has, in fact, in the chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, 14th of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has very clearly said that prakrti में आपस में बरतती है. They are interacting. The nature is interacting with nature. And the consciousness, the Chaitanya, is absolutely constant, doing nothing, just sitting beside it. All the things we do, whether we work or we do karma or whether we do for selfish purpose, we do for paramarth, whatever we do, we are driven by this body-mind complex. We are driven by the three gunas, ras, satam, tam, and they are part of our complex. So as soon as we realize this, whatever we are doing, it is happening because of our nature. People don't do good things because they want to do it. It is because their nature pushes them. That is why we say, somebody gets angry, we say, oh, this is his nature, he gets angry. Nature means that is real terms, that this is coming from those three gunas, because the three gunas constitute the nature. Then somebody, is highly emotional, you say, oh, it is his nature, don't worry, he will settle down after a while. We say that. So this is precisely the nature age. The nature means the three gunas, the complex of body and mind, while the Chaitanya is sitting behind it. So this is one question which I wanted to mention, that of course, it's only a matter of practice. Once you start meditating on yourself, once you start, differentiating between your mind and your consciousness, which the contemplation and dhyan, this meditation tells us all that. Once we get that difference clearly, you can easily realize self. Then you will become like an observer, you will become Shakshi. And you will feel all these things which are happening outside. This is the function of the body-mind complex. Let them do what they want to do. Then you become completely detached to the whole process. And that is self-realization. So self-realization is absolutely possible. It has been achieved by thousands of people, millions of people over time. And each one of us can achieve it. There is no problem at all. So that was one question. The second question, though, I think Prafulji is not here, but I'll take up this question. He was mentioning the issue of Kashmiri Pandits. He said that there was a, army commander sitting with a full corps there, and he could have easily prevented this to happen. But he thought that he doesn't get the order, he should not act on his own. So what should he do? Now this is a situation of dilemma. These dilemmas come in life. And when such dilemmas come, you have to actually follow the voice of your inner self. You don't have to follow the command structure in situation like this. In situation like this, if you depend on the command structure, you will not be able to get the right answer. A person sitting on the border and fighting with Chinese or Pakistanis cannot expect his boss to guide him all the time. He has to act as per his own instinct, depending on the situation on the border. The same thing was applicable to this commander who was sitting 4 to 5 kilometers away from the scene where all these Kashmiri Pandits were being driven out, and some of them were tortured and some of them were killed. I think he should have acted based on his inner voice, and he should have taken action. That is what I feel, to prevent that massacre. So in situation of dilemma, you have to call your consciousness and ask, what should I do? You don't have to call your commander and ask for this. You should have, there's a commander sitting inside. He will give you proper guidance and follow that. So in any such situation, I would suggest we should go by that inner voice. Then there was a question about the role of planets and Rasis. Lalitji has raised this question. Do the planets and Rasis play a role in our life? Yes, they do. Now, let me tell you, the sun is sitting approximately 15 crore years, 15 crore kilometers away from us. And it impacts our life on every single day in so many ways. He keeps regulating our life, sitting all the way 15 crore kilometers away. We are able to see because he rises. Our entire daily routine is governed by the sun system. In the morning, when the sun rises, you get a lot of energy. In the daytime, when the sun is still in the sky, you feel hungry, you keep eating 3 to 4 times. In the night, when the sun sets, you don't feel hungry at all, because the entire pranic system is governed by the sun. The sun is governing every single aspect of your life, sitting that far away. I can give you many multiple examples how the sun is governing our life. The simple example, we get up with the sun, and when the sun sets, we start getting ready to sleep. Then we eat because of the sun energy which we are getting in the daytime. The whole digestive system works because of that. The food is broken into juice and blood and flesh and bones and all that into those 7 different parts with the pranic energy which is coming from the sun inside our body. Our body temperature is regulated by the sun. We maintain a particular temperature not only of the entire body but also of different organs inside the body. You can even measure the temperature of each organ inside the body, which is also maintained by the energy coming from the sun. Then whatever food you eat comes from the sun energy. The process of photosynthesis happens. You have wheat plant. The wheat plant, you put the seed in the earth, and then you put water. Without sunlight, there cannot be any plant of the wheat. You need to have sunlight, you need to have air. So the sun plays a role there. The entire food cycle starts from the sun cycle. Similarly, the entire water cycle is governed by sun. The sun lifts the water from the oceans up in the sky. The wind drives the clouds here and there. And then again with the sun temperature, the condensation happens and the water comes down, both in terms of, what you call rain, in terms of snowfall, and in terms of hails. All this comes because of the temperature which is governed by the sun. So the sun is regulating our life in so many ways. There are many, many examples. The whole process starts with sunrise and ends with sunset. And in fact, the electricity which we see in our houses, this is all a reflection of the sun. It's representing sun, because sun is the source of all types of electricity we get, whether it is hydel power, whether it is nuclear power, whether it is what you call coal-based plants, whatever. All that electricity comes, primarily it comes from the sun. So the sun is governing. Similarly, the moon is governing. You can see the 28-day cycle of the moon, waxing and waning, 14 days waxing and 14 days of waning. It governs all the, the movement in the ocean, what we call Jwar Bhata. The ocean rises up and goes down. This is all because of the moon. Even the cycle of the woman, the menstrual cycle is governed by the moon. So moon is governing many aspects of our life. In fact, all the taste which comes in the vegetables and fruits, it is injected by the moon. The power, the energy comes from the sun, but the taste is injected by the moon. So the sun and moon affect our life. We can see it very clearly. Similarly, the other planets as well. Now, there has not been much research on that area, that how the other planets affect our life in different ways. But yes, they do. I'm sure this is an area which scientists will explore in the coming decades and coming centuries. But definitely the entire solar system impacts our body, impacts our mind, impacts our activities. And the Rasis are part of it because there are 12 different, what you call, segments of the sun cycle which govern the Rasis. The sun cycle has its full cycle, and then they're divided into four, and then each is divided into three each, and that makes 12 Rasis. So yes, they are impacted, but we do not know the complete science of it. So that was the third question. Now there's one more question which was raised, that is, what is the utility of knowledge? We are all the time behaving in the same fashion. So what is the meaning of knowledge? I think knowledge is fundamental to human existence. Without knowledge, you remain in the realm of darkness. Like when the sun rises, you're able to see the whole world. Similarly, when the knowledge comes, you are able to distinguish between the good and the bad, between this and that, between matter and spirit, between different objects which are existing in this world. Without knowledge, you cannot distinguish that. The knowledge is fundamental. Whether you actually apply it in life or not, that is a different issue. That depends on you personally. But knowledge is fundamental to our understanding of life, to our understanding of this world, to our understanding of our own self, and the relationship between all the three. And therefore, without knowledge, we cannot move forward. This is the first step towards any action, whether you take what we call, the route of karma, whether you take the route of bhakti, or whether you take the route of gyan, knowledge. Whatever route you take, doesn't matter. Knowledge is essential. Beforehand, you should have knowledge, and then you should move in any direction, whichever you want. You can take karma marg, or you can take bhakti marg, or you can take gyan marg. But for all that, knowledge is essential. So saying that, what do we do with the knowledge? Knowledge is actually the foundation of human existence. In fact, what we call Sat Chit Anand. Chit is Chetna. Chetna is basically knowledge. That is what it is. In one of the Upanishads, actually, the Brahma has been defined as Satyam Jnanam Anantam. That is the definition of Brahma. That is, this is eternal Satyam. Jnanam, it is knowledge. And that is again linked with awareness. And Anantam, that it is. We will discuss that on some occasion, but what I'm meaning here is that Satyam, Jnanam and Anantam. So Jnana is one of the fundamental principles of life, of human existence. This knowledge is not available in that quantity to other beings, other species of life, because their mental and intellectual development is limited. A human being in that sense is very fortunate that we have highly developed mind and intellect, and therefore we have the power of discrimination, we have the power of rationality, we have the power which enables us to analyze things and find out what is what. So this is extremely important. So let us not ignore that knowledge is not important in our life. So these are the 4 questions I had in my notes here. So I thought I'll go over those questions first, and then we will start our topic of today,